The NDP leader is absolutely right. This cannot continue. This Prime Minister cannot go on like this. Housing costs have doubled. Food bank use has doubled. The debt has doubled. Gun crime has doubled. And now we face troubling tariff threats from a president who can see weakness coming from a mile away. The Prime Minister must leave this job, but there's only one person who can remove him, and that's the leader of the NDP. Yes. Will he put the country ahead of his pension and vote for a carbon tax election now?
Yes.
Eric?
What are you muting the mic for? What the heck, man?
So, although the preamble to that question dealt with the administration of government, the question itself did not, and the chair has made it clear that we're not doing that. The honourable member from Thornhill.
Cool, give it back to Conservatives.
The Prime Minister has lost control. The Prime Minister's own deputy quit just hours before her economic statement, all of a sudden saying, Canadians know when we're focused on ourselves, and describing a newfound disdain for costly political gimmicks. Those are her quotes. Right. This after her own political rival, Mark Carney, wrote the fall economic statement full of things that she didn't want to present. The Old Boys Club isn't in charge. Canadians are. Right. And it's time for credible leadership in the seriousness of this moment, not the fake feminism of this phony Prime Minister. It's time for Canadians to decide. So will anyone or everyone over there finally agree?
Yeah. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned earlier, we are looking forward today to presenting the fall economic statement that is going to have a series of important measures for Canadians. At a time like this, it is important that all of us band together, united as Canadians, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the Canadian economy, protect Canadian jobs, and to stand up for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, they can't even stand by each other. Hours before delivering the fiscal update, the finance minister resigned. She lost confidence in the Prime Minister. Last night, the failed housing minister and the worst immigration minister in the history of this country also resigned. A couple of Randys, and now they're up to 9 ministers that need to be replaced. He's lost control of the government. The party of backroom boys is over. The backbench should look up from their laptops, and the NDP leader shouldn't be the only one in this House with confidence in the Prime Minister. Present the statement and call a vote today.
Hear, hear.
Again, I'm just going to, for the last time, order. Order. I'm going to ask members once again to remind themselves not to refer to members by their first names. The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure who she's talking about, but I'm still here for now. I can guarantee you, Mr. Speaker, that there are two kinds of people who run for office in politics. There are people who want to do something, and there are people who want to be somebody. And I can tell you, on our side of the House, we want to do things. We want to build the houses to make sure families can afford to keep a roof over their heads. We want to make sure families can afford to keep their food on the table to feed their kids. We want to make sure people can find a job to go to that gives them a sense of pride and allows them to contribute to their communities. On the Conservative side, their guy has been writing essays about why he should be Prime Minister since he was a teenager.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
On Friday, the Prime Minister told Canada's first female finance minister but she was fired, but to keep sweet and present their wildly overspent budget on Monday so that he and an unelected man, Mark Carbon Tax Carney, wouldn't have to take the blame for their broken budget. He then, unbothered, released a video of him making cinnamon buns to get the women folks vote. How can any woman in that caucus defend that man instead of calling for an election now?
Hear, hear.
Here comes Quiet Karina. expect her to whisper.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House
Use your
of
big girl
Commons.
voice, Karina.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't realize cinnamon buns were a gendered food, but what I would say is that her question says more about how that member and Conservative members view women in this country than anything else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Are facing violence in the streets. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford to buy presents for their kids for the holidays. They can't afford anything. Canadian women are far worse off under this fake feminist Prime Minister. And now he fired Canada's first female finance minister because she dared question him. That sounds pretty familiar. No strong women exist in that caucus. Why would any woman defend this man instead of calling for an election?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for that member opposite, but I think she's speaking from her own experience with the Leader of the official opposition when she said that she wasn't going to support him and then spent a year in the hinterlands, Mr. Speaker. But what I will say is that when it comes to actually doing things that support women, we have done that on this side of the House. Whether it's affordable childcare that is making it possible for hundreds of thousands of women to join the workforce, making contraceptions free, or the Canada Child Benefit that is helping families pay the bills. And what do Conservative members of Parliament do every time? They vote against them. So actions speak louder than words, Mr. Speaker.